Hello and welcome, I'm Amber Valentine, and today I wanted to do a little Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion WAP inspired makeup look as well as wig transformation. I do have to be completely honest with you, I did come up with this idea before that video ever came out, but it's still inspired by them, I'd say, just because of the fact that I don't know if I would have gone through all of the work to actually do it if it wasn't for that video. Also, quick note before we do get started, I do have to do a shameless little plug that I do now have merch available. There are a few different styles available, the first of which is this one that I'm currently wearing right now. It's a full printed tank top. Each of the leopard spots I drew by hand myself, as well as the cartoon of myself on the front, so it was a labor of love. And there's also a t-shirt version of this. Now, I understand that this is a little bit loud and extreme and extra, so I do also have a plain black version that comes in a tank top and a t-shirt as well. So if you're at all interested, just head on over to my Instagram page at the Amber Valentine, and on my profile page there is a saved story called merch, and you can click on that, scroll through all of the different options that are available, and there are instructions built right in there for how to go about the order process as well. Alright, so now that that's out of the way, let's get right into the tutorial, and I think we should get started with the wig. Here is the wig I'm going to be working with. As you can see, it's half black, half blonde, but because I like to torture myself and make things more complex than they need to be, you can see it's sort of an ombre on either side. I just like playing in the black and white of zebra, but also having the blonde for sort of the undertones of a leopard. Now, to create the pattern, I'm going to be using two different colored hairsprays, one white to go over the black areas, and then this one that's a super dark brown, almost black, for over top of the blonde areas. And to achieve the pattern, I'm going to make a stencil. So I'm just taking this old pizza box. You can use anything you want. I would just use something that's a little bit heavier than paper so that it doesn't get wet from the hairspray and get all flimsy. So as you can see, I'm just cutting open this box and opening it up so that I have this one long piece. Then on one half, I'm just going to start off freehand sketching out the zebra pattern that I want to create. And by no means does this have to be perfect at all. Mine certainly wasn't. This is really just a guide for where you're going to be cutting out your shapes. Now, as you can see, these lines are already making me a little bit confused about which areas are going to be cut out and which parts will stay. So I started to draw X's in the areas that I'm going to cut out, just to help me stay visually on track. And with that, I have the pattern pretty much completed, and I'm going to set this other piece aside to do the leopard print part later. I'm just going to start on one end and start cutting out the stripes that have the X's on them. But as I started going, I realized that even with the X's, I had still gotten confused and started marking the wrong pieces with X's. So just with the scissors, I'm adding an extra stripe in that I hadn't drawn on, so that by the time I get all the way across to the other side, everything will have balanced out with the way I had originally drawn my stencil. And with that, the zebra print side is complete, and I can move on and do the exact same thing for the leopard print side. So now on the other half of the cardboard box, I'm just hand drawing some leopard print spots. The one thing to keep in mind here is that you do want to create a similar size pattern as the zebra side so that they look balanced at the end, or at least as balanced as possible. Alright, and now just like on the zebra print side, I'm going to start cutting out these shapes. However, since that side was mostly straight lines, I could easily use scissors, but on this side the shapes are more complex, so instead of using scissors, I'm going to use an X-Acto knife. And I'm using, yes, another pizza box, don't judge me, we're in quarantine. And putting that underneath as a base just to make sure I don't cut too deeply and damage my floors. Also, please be very careful anytime you're using an X-Acto knife. I personally have had more than one major injury while using them, when I was just going too quickly, or when I was stressed, or let's be honest, just not paying close enough attention. Alright, and what feels like an eternity later, we finally have that completed. So now we get to the fun part, which is spraying this wig. However, before you start spraying anything, make sure that your wig is styled exactly how you want it. I personally teased the wig and I straightened it all out because I figured it would be easiest to spray with a stencil on a flat surface rather than having wavy or curly hair, which would add bumps and texture and give us a less clean looking result. But I just want to emphasize that what we're using is colored hairspray, so it is going to hold the hair and turn it into almost like a sculpture, at least on the top layer. So that's why you really want to make sure that your hair is styled exactly how you want it before you even try spraying anything, because once it's sprayed on, it's not going to be able to move and you can't change the shape or the styling of the wig. As you can see, I did already do the zebra side off camera, and that's just because I wanted to make sure that this was actually going to work before I started to film a whole tutorial. I'm starting at the top of the wig and working my way down, and since the top has black roots, I'm starting in with the white hairspray with my stencil. And as you can see, I'm sort of angling the stencil around to sort of fit around the curve of that head so that the area that I'm spraying is always as flat to the head as possible. So I'm lifting it up to check to make sure that the design is coming through and it's looking how I want it to, but just kind of keep in mind where you had that stencil sitting so that when you put it back into place, you can get it almost exactly where it was before so that you don't have any sort of weird double spraying and ruining your pattern. Now we're going to start transitioning into the dark brown-ish black hairspray as that hair fades down into the blonde. And I'm just moving along following that same method of spraying an area, checking it to make sure it looks good, and continuing down. You can only cover so much of the hair with a stencil at a time before you get to the edge of the stencil or the edge of the hair, etc. So in places you need to, you can just pick one of the smaller cutouts in the stencil and use that to fill in any gaps you might have, just to balance out that space. So now we're pretty much finished with the top of the wig, and at the top we have so much teasing and hairspray which creates a lot of structure for the stencil, but as we move down toward the bottom parts it's a lot looser and flowier, so that hairspray is actually starting to act a little bit like a fan pushing the hair away, which is going to make everything really messy and the stencil won't be as precise. So the first thing you want to do is make sure to brush out that hair as perfectly smooth as possible, because again, once it's sprayed, it's not going to be able to move very much. And what I did is I just took another piece of cardboard and put it behind the hair to act as a barrier or like a wall that you're spraying against so the hair can't fly away. And that way when I put my stencil on top, it's all one flat surface that I can spray all the way down. Lastly, I'm just going to go back in and touch up any areas that I might have missed, and once that's finished, the whole wig is complete. But I'm going to hold off on showing the finished wig until we have the makeup finished and we can show the complete look at the end. So with that being said, let's move on to the makeup and beat this mug. Alright, so as I mentioned in my last video, I'm just going to do some things off camera like my base and eyebrows and whatnot that I've shown how to do in a lot of my previous videos, and just focus on the makeup that's unique to this look. So as you can see, I went ahead off camera and did my forehead and eyebrows, and also I wanted to mention that even though this white underneath the eye is very standard for me, this look specifically really requires it. I mean, I don't want to say requires it because you could do it without, I guess, but I think it's really going to help like punch that animal print up because of the contrast between the black and the white. I just wanted to mention that because it's not something that I'm doing for this look just because it's what I always do. It is actually specific to this look. If you don't have hooded eyes like I have, you can bring the white all the way down to the lash line and just fill in all that space between the lash line and your eyebrow. But for me, since I have hooded lids, if I put black eyeliner along my lash line and I open my eye, it's gonna transfer. So there's really no reason for me to bring the white down any further than that, because if I do, the black is just gonna transfer onto the white. So I just wanted to do that part first to give myself a little bit of a guide so I don't bring the white down past that, because it would really be completely pointless for me. So now as I continue bringing that white down, I can use that black as a guideline for me just to know where to stop. Alright, the next thing I'm going to do is actually continue bringing that white all the way down around the bottom of my eye here. So I'm bringing this up and out almost like I would an eyeliner wing. Then when I do get to the outside, I'm just kind of tapping with my finger to sort of blend it in. And I'm trying to make sure that this bottom line here stays as crisp as possible. I want to have a really distinct shape so that the animal print can stay inside of that and it all looks really purposeful. But I do also want to point out that it's okay if it's a little bit messy, if that line's not perfect, because we will be going in afterward, obviously, and doing all of our foundation and concealer on the bottom, so we can always kind of clean up those lines at that point. So now I'm just going over all of that white and setting it really well with white powder. This part is really, really important because we're going to be going over all of that white with black eyeliner to get those details, and if this makeup is wet at all, it's going to be nearly impossible to draw over it with the eyeliner. Alright, so now it's time to get started drawing in those shapes with our eyeliner. I'm gonna start on this side because this side of my wig is leopard print and this side will be zebra. Since we're not doing any sort of winged liner, it's all just gonna be the animal print. I wanna sort of finesse the shapes a little bit to create the illusion of lifting my eye the way my eyeliner normally does. So what I'm gonna do is start drawing right here on the outer corner of my eye to make sure that there is a shape that sort of lifts up in a similar way my eyeliner would. Kind of like that, if you can kind of get the idea of what I'm going for. And then I'm just gonna keep going around and adding more shapes around it. In case you haven't noticed, I am obsessed with animal print, so I'm just freehanding this based off of memory, but if you need to, just go ahead and look up a picture of leopard print, zebra print for reference. Alright, so when I'm getting close to this edge here of the white, I'm just making sure not to go outside of those lines so that everything stays within that white shape. Alright, I just finished filling all that in with black, and I did go back in with just this tiny little brush and some black eyeshadow just to try to fill it in as much as I could, but it's kind of hard to stay within the line, so I just did my best and it'll have to do. And with that, we're ready to start on the zebra print side. So just like on the leopard print side, how I try to lift that eye, I'm gonna try to do the exact same thing using the zebra pattern. I mean, that's almost cheating because it's like pretty much the same thing as a wing, but it is different and it will go in a different direction, I promise. All right, and now I'm just gonna go try to set the black as best as I can on this side as well. As you can see, I put on my whole base, and all we have left to do is lashes and lips. Just wondering, what did you guys think of the WAP video? First time I saw it, my brother-in-law sent it to me and he's like, I just know you're gonna love this, and I did. But let me know what you guys think. Some people have an issue with how vulgar it is, but at the same time it's like, I mean, men have been saying stuff like this about women's bodies in music for such a long time, and it's like, why aren't they allowed to say it if they want to? Oh, I have so many pairs of humongous lashes that I thought I would try to do some smaller ones for this video so it wouldn't block everything, but these are the smallest ones I could find and they're still pretty big. And last up, lips. And I was trying to decide what color I wanted to do with this because there's really no color on the eyes at all. I was thinking maybe I would do a nude lip with it, but then I just thought, I mean, this is a song by two powerful women, and what better color than a power color like red? Alright, the lip is all filled in, and I'm just going to go in and top it off with a tiny little bit of gloss. Alright, and with that, the wig is finished and the makeup is all set, so let's go combine everything together and see the final look. Alright, and here we are with the final look. This whole process was a lot of fun to do, and I think as far as the hair goes, I think the idea comes across. It's not perfect, but I'm still happy with how it turned out. I kind of knew going with a wig this long that it was gonna be really dependent on if it's behind my shoulder or in front, etc. You know, the way that pattern lines up on those strands really is dependent of how good it ends up looking. So I guess if you were gonna try to recreate this, I would maybe recommend using a shorter wig, maybe something that sits above the shoulder that could be more of like a sculpture almost, that's not gonna move as much. But I don't know, I really like long hair, and so for me, I think I'm happy with it. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon if you want to be notified anytime I upload a new video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all soon.